Look at it, Mama. Doesn't it just make you want to cry?
Welcome to I Am Your Target Demographic. Today we are talking about Disneyland and Disney World. What are the differences? Why might you want to visit one versus the other? We're going to talk about everything at both of them and how they might compare and which trip might be the best for you. Let's start with the original Disneyland, founded by the Walt Disney Company and doors opening in 1955. Located in Anaheim, California, the entire Disneyland resort includes 2 parks and at least 3 Disney-owned hotels, plus many more in the nearby vicinity. As a city, Anaheim is about 40 minutes to an hour away from downtown Los Angeles, but that fluxes drastically as traffic changes. If you were to visit, it wouldn't be too far out of the way to also visit sites in Los Angeles, Hollywood, or even adventure to the Pacific Ocean and its lively beaches. Plenty of options for a long stay in the Southern California region. Like I said, Disneyland is made up of 2 parks, Disneyland proper and what's called Disney California Adventure, often shortened to DCA. These 2 parks share a drop-off point, so you can either walk, Uber, drive, etc. to one point, and the gates are literally right across from each other. Also at these entrances is an area called Downtown Disney, full of shops, restaurants, and entertainment, which does not require any ticketing in order to access. Let's talk about Disneyland first. As you enter the park, you're greeted by Main Street, a single walkway lined with shops, eateries, and other attractions. You'll see at the end of the row the majestic Sleeping Beauty Castle, home to the Princess Aurora. Right in front of the castle is a circle allowing you to take one of many offshoots to visit the quote-unquote land of your choice. We have Adventureland, home to rides like Jungle Cruise and a turbulent Indiana Jones ride. We have Frontierland, highlighted by a country western feeling and the thrill ride Big Thunder Mountain. New Orleans Square and Bayou Country are also hidden back here, where you can see rides like Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Tiana's Bayou Adventure, formerly known as Splash Mountain. The newest expansion is back beyond these lands, called Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, an immersive layout of the planet of Batuu, where you can feel like you're living in this world, including running into droids, or even making a droid or lightsaber of your own. There's also a few big Star Wars themed rides back here as well. If you were to walk through the Sleeping Beauty Castle, you'd run into Fantasyland, which includes rides and attractions based on Disney's older and more classic properties, and feels a bit more like a traditional carnival. This extends up into Toontown, which has some big rides like Mickey's Runaway Railway, but is also home to Mickey and Minnie, so you can check out their homes and try to get a photo with them. The thrill ride Matterhorn is in this cluster, which is backed up right against the last land, Tomorrowland. This is what they imagined the future would look like, but back in the 1950s. This is where you can find rides like Space Mountain, as well as retro-futuristic dining and other attractions. This is all Disneyland, where you can make the full loop and check out every land. If you've never been, you can either rely on fast food options like food cart vendors, or you can spend a little extra for sit-down experiences or character meet and greets, which would fill the time between adventuring across these lands. Depending on the season you visit, there's also likely seasonal events, so things like specific parades, shows, or fireworks. You could realistically do Disneyland in a day, though I wouldn't say you could do everything, especially considering how much time you might spend in lines, spend eating and shopping. There's enough here to fill multiple days, if you have the time and the budget. Now across the plaza from Disneyland is the Disney California Adventure Park. Originally it was open to show off what makes California special, so it wasn't as branded as the other park, but it's slowly become a home to several big franchises, most notably Pixar and Marvel. As you enter DCA, you encounter a very similar entrance called Buena Vista Street. This feels like a classic Hollywood, like a backstage film set from another era. The layout isn't as simple as Disneyland, but you can start your adventure from here and go many different ways. You can start in Hollywoodland, which contains that vibe of a backstage film set, but it is soon being revamped into an Avatar-themed land, including some big rides. This continues into what's called Avengers Campus, where you can see heroes like Spider-Man and Thor, which includes the former Tower of Terror, now branded into a Guardians of the Galaxy drop ride called Mission Breakout. There's a Spider-Man ride called Web Slingers, where you can compete against your friends. and they're in the process of expanding to include several new rides. If you were to cross back across the park, you'd enter Grizzly Peak, which leans into the rough wilderness aspect of California with rides like Soarin', which puts you in a simulated ride over America or California depending on the season, or you can try out the Grizzly River Run if you're okay getting a little wet. There's a huge area dedicated to the Cars property, so if you're a fan, head over to Radiator Springs, with several big rides, places to eat, and even chances to meet many of the cars themselves. Up next is an area called San Francisco Square, from the film Big Hero 6, which imagines a blend of Tokyo and San Francisco, and you can try to find Hero and Baymax for a photo. And then you come to the pier, where everything else Pixar is located. There's a big loop around the water with various rides, shops, and restaurants. The Incredicoaster is great for thrill seekers, but there's also slower rides for the young ones. This is where you can also find the nighttime show, which as of right now is called World of Color, but they might iterate and change the show as time goes on. While this seems like a lot overall, it's generally thought that DCA doesn't offer as much to do as the first park. For out-of-towners and first-timers, I think there's still enough here to do for a full day, especially considering that World of Color is worth hanging around for. Since the two parks are so close, right across the plaza from each other, getting a park hopper isn't a bad idea. But I think single park passes are also a solid way to go, and there's enough to do in each park for an entire day. So let that soak in. 2 parks, plenty to do, plus the promise of other nearby Southern California attractions if you wanted to spend an even longer vacation. But let's hop over to Orlando, Florida to get some insight on what Disney World includes. The Walt Disney World Resort was opened in 1971, unfortunately a few years after Walt Disney himself passed away. There's 4 parks in total, plus other offshoots of shopping, dining, and water-themed parks for kids. There are also, brace for it, over 25 official Disney hotels near Disney World. This is a much larger destination, equipped to handle way more people from all over the world. These hotels might be walking distance to some parks, but they also feature buses that can take you to the parks, as well as all these other locations you might want to visit. This first park, called Magic Kingdom, replicates the California-based Disneyland, so it's similar in a lot of ways. Let's discuss how Magic Kingdom is similar and how it's different from Disneyland. At a superficial look, it's very similar. You enter and see the same sort of main street lined with shops and eateries. The castle in the distance, though, different. This is Cinderella's castle. It stands at 189 feet tall. For comparison, Disneyland's Sleeping Beauty castle is only 77 feet tall, less than half the size. This castle is massive, including a full restaurant inside. Reservations for that restaurant and its princess meet and greet might be expensive, but I found it well worth it. We have similar lands to the left, including Adventureland and Frontierland, including most of the same rides, but missing a big one in Indiana Jones. You'll notice Star Wars isn't here. You'll find that in another of Florida's parks. We also have Fantasyland, but no Toontown, so you'll find Mickey's Runaway Railway at another park as well. The towering Matterhorn is also absent completely in Florida. We do have Tomorrowland, including Space Mountain. Head-to-head, Magic Kingdom doesn't have as many stellar rides and is missing a few lands completely. But luckily, Magic Kingdom is just one of 4 parks, so we'll see if the other 3 can make it worth your while. Our second park is EPCOT, which opened in 1982. EPCOT was originally conceptualized as the acronym Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. It would focus on the future and technology and bringing the world together. The park is essentially 2 pieces. The entrance area is everything technological, including the spaceship Earth, which is a ride inside the giant golf ball that many of you have likely seen, but maybe didn't know what it was. There are shows and rides in this area that focus on sustainability, technology, and much more. As you get through this area, you arrive to a giant lake and enter the World Showcase, which is maybe my favorite part of any Disney World park. As you walk this loop around the lake, you encounter 11 different countries, each one including shows, restaurants, and maybe even rides. For example, in Norway, you can ride a Frozen-themed water ride. while you stop in France for the high-tech Ratatouille ride. You can meet cast members from these countries, see performers, and eat the food from those countries. It is incredibly neat, maybe even more so for older audiences, as these lands aren't as thrilling or traditionally fun as what the other parks hold. Getting a beer in Germany, then walking over to watch a Mexican mariachi band, it's all very cool. There are parades that might go around this loop and a nighttime show on the lake. Our third park is Hollywood Studios, which is where a lot of the more entertainment-focused rides are. Like California Adventure, this gives you an old-school Hollywood feeling from the moment you enter. There's an area called Sunset Boulevard, where you can take the drop ride Tower of Terror. There's Toy Story Land, where you feel shrunk down to the size of Woody and Buzz. Next to that, we have Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is nearly identical to the Disneyland version, including the rides and eateries. Instead of an Indiana Jones ride, we have a stunt spectacular here, which is a show that showcases some amazing live stunts and explosions. Right in the central courtyard is also where you find Mickey's Runaway Railway, themed like the famous Hollywood Chinese theater. The nighttime show at Hollywood Studios is called Fantasmic, a huge amphitheater show with water and explosions and tons of characters. One of the best Disney World night shows in my opinion, and well worth showing up early to get good seating. Our last of the 4 big parks in Florida is Animal Kingdom, generally perceived to be the smallest of the parks and the one you might spend the least amount of time at. Animal Kingdom is part zoo and part theme park. The zoo part is broken up into different regions, so there's an Africa and Asia section with dedicated animals, including a lengthy safari ride in Africa called the Kilimanjaro Safari. This is also where we find the Avatar-themed land called Pandora, which has several incredible attractions. There's also a transition happening, so an old area called Dino Land is closing down and will be replaced by what's called Tropical Americas, which will include a new Indiana Jones ride and some Encanto-themed attractions. This new land is set to be open in 2027. This park as a whole closes earlier than the rest, since much of the park is dependent on being able to see the animals in their habitats. So it's either a chance to park up to another park that you couldn't get enough of, or enjoy a night out in one of the shopping or restaurant areas near your hotel. There's also an area called Disney Springs, which is a sprawling outdoor shopping complex accessible by bus or by boat from many of the hotels. I spent an entire day pretty much in this area, including taking in a Cirque du Soleil show and some late night music, so if you have a break day and want something slower paced, Disney Springs is a great option. I also didn't speak much about Orlando as a whole. While Orlando may not have the sort of citywide appeal or options for you that Los Angeles might have, it does have a huge amount of other parks. You could take a few days to add on, and you could go to places like SeaWorld, Legoland, or the Universal Studios option, including the brand new Epic Universe, if you're a fan of properties like Nintendo, Harry Potter, How to Train Your Dragon, just to name a few. Orlando has many other theme parks that could help you justify quite a lengthy stay if you wanted to. So that brings us back to the question of which is a better fit for you. I think location is a huge consideration if you're local to the United States. It might just be easier or cheaper for you to get to one of these versus the other. If you're not close to either, or you're coming from out of the country, it might be a bigger conversation over how long you have. If you only have a day or two, it might be smarter to do Disneyland. Everything is close and easy, and you get more to do in a shorter time. But if you have 4 days or more and you really want to spread it out, Disney World has its 4 unique parks, plus many other parks that you might want to check out in the area. I talked to a woman at our hotel in Florida that was spending a month there with her family. Now that financially isn't a wise decision, but if you have the money for a lengthy stay, Florida might yield more for you to do. And wow, what a summary. Okay, a lot to cover there, but hopefully this helps you think about which of the 2 places is a better fit for you as you plan your vacation. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe for other interesting videos. Thanks for watching.
This is awkward. Not you're awkward, but just because I'm awkward. You're gorgeous. Wait, what?